Thank you, Ken. It's an honor to be here. It's awesome. I have to say it's a little bit unusual for me. I work now, well, I can't say I work. I'm with NBC. I broadcast on Sunday nights, so I get paid. I don't know that I work. But our schedule is demanding in the fall. We have a lot of meetings, conference calls, getting ready for the games, and then on Sundays we go in at noon and we get started. We watch the early games and we get ready for our broadcast at 8 o'clock. We do the pregame show, the broadcast, halftime, sometimes we do postgame. So I'm usually working noon to midnight on Sundays. 18 weekends in a row. I go from Tampa, where I live, to New York, and so I'm away from my family 18 weekends during the fall. So I usually don't take many speaking opportunities in the fall. But Ken is right. He came down and he talked to me, and I could tell he had all this wrapped up in him, what you saw tonight. And he's telling me about FCA. Could you do something in FCA in Jacksonville, North Carolina? Well, he didn't know it at the time, but he had me at that point, because I will get into why FCA is so important and so special to me, but also Jacksonville, North Carolina. I had never been here before. Heard about it a lot. I know how, and I learned since I've been here just how the hurricane came and hit and how that's impacted you. But one of my dear, dear best friends in life is from Jacksonville, North Carolina. His name is Tyrone Willingham. We went to Jacksonville High School. We competed against each other in college. We worked together 4 years at the at the Minnesota Vikings. I've never met a better person than Tyrone. I know his brother is still here, Jerome, still in town. But I heard so much about Jacksonville from him, and growing up, I've always wanted to visit here, and I haven't been disappointed. The hospitality has been tremendous. So thank you very much. Second reason that Ken had me, and he didn't know he had me, was mentioning FCA. I just have such a special feeling in my heart, and I have to share my my story, my growth, to have you understand how important FCA has been to me. I grew up in a little town in Michigan, automotive town, Jackson, Michigan, probably 50,000 people. Everything in our community revolved around the auto industry. In the 60s, when I was growing up, we had Goodyear tire, glass factories, and metal shops, and anything to do with putting together a car, that's what we revolved around. And that's how I grew up. I was very, very fortunate, very blessed to have Christian parents, and my mom was just tremendous. And my dad was an athlete, and he got me involved in sports. My mom always looked at the spiritual side of things, and I can remember, as far back as I can remember, her quoting Matthew 16:26 to me, that what would it profit a man to gain the whole world if you forfeit your soul? So it doesn't matter what you do in life, it's how you do it and who you do it for. And it's whether you're the auto mechanic, whether you're the factory worker online putting the cars together, whether you're a school teacher like they were, whether you're an athlete, it doesn't matter. You don't want to forfeit your soul. So I took this in. My grandfather was a minister. I had two uncles who were ministers. My mom taught the Sunday school. I was immersed in Christian background and in the Bible growing up. And when I was a young kid, I remember my grandfather saying, "Who wants to go to heaven?" And I raised my hand when I was just a little boy, and here's how you do it, you accept Christ. So I had the knowledge of that, I did that. But I was like so many boys at that time in life. I started getting interested in sports, and I enjoyed sports. And all I wanted to do was play the next sport. When it was the fall, I wanted to play football, but as soon as the weather started getting cold in Michigan, then I started thinking about basketball. And then when the weather would warm up, I'd think about baseball. And I just loved to play. And with my parents being teachers, well, in order to play, you had to get good grades. So that was my whole focus from the time I was about 8 years old on, is I had to get my grades so I could play, but I was really zeroed in and dialed in on sports. Ended up getting a scholarship to the University of Minnesota, and I played there 4 years. And now, when I was a freshman in college, I didn't have my parents there every day. I didn't have them taking me to church. I started being able to make decisions on my own. And it wasn't that I did anything wild or left the path, but I didn't have that spiritual growth background. Everything was school and football, school and basketball, school and football, school and basketball. And that was okay because it kept me on a narrow path, and I didn't get off track too much. But my senior year in college, one of the Minnesota Viking players, a guy named Jeff Seaman, came over to visit us, and he talked about FCA, about Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and they wanted to start a huddle group on campus. And I remember sitting in my seat and listening and saying, this sounds kind of interesting, and it didn't get off the ground that year. It got off the ground the next year after I left. But that was kind of the first introduction that I had to FCA, and I just remembered this. Well, we played that senior season. I graduated. I ended up going to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I'm a rookie player, 21 years old with the Steelers. They're in the midst of this unbelievable run. They've already won 2 Super Bowls when I get there. And I remember my first meeting like it was yesterday, 1977. I was 21 years old, and Coach Knoll is at the podium just like this, and he starts to talk to us. And he said, gentlemen, welcome to the National Football League. We're all rookies out there. He said, you're now getting paid to play football, so that makes it your profession. But please, 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 don't make football your life. If you make football your life, you're going to leave the game disappointed. That was the first thing I heard from the guy who I consider the greatest coach in football, the guy who was going to teach me how to not only make the team, but how we're going to win Super Bowls. And he said, don't make football your life. And then he went on to talk about how we could get involved in the community, how we could do things, how we could grow as people. He talked for 45 minutes about growing as people before he said one word about football. And I thought, man, this is weird. This is strange. I've never had a coach like this before. Well, the next week, we have 1 week with just the rookies, and then the veterans come in, and Coach Knoll put me with a player by the name of Donnie Shell. He was going to be my roommate. And I was learning a new position. I'd been a quarterback my whole life. Now I was switching over to defense, and he said, you room with Donnie Shell, you follow Donnie Shell, you do everything that Donnie does. He'll teach you about your new position and how to play. And it was just the Lord doing this, because Donnie Shell ended up being the most fired up Christian that I've ever been around. He's a great football player, but a greater man, greater person, stronger Christian. The first thing he told me is, hey, okay, that's your bed over there, that's my bed. We got to get that straight. Once we got that straight, then he started asking, hey, what's going on in your life spiritually? Well, nothing, I don't think. I think I'm doing okay. What are you reading? And I'm reading my playbook. No. What are you reading in the Bible? What's going on? Hey, you got to come to chapel. You got to come to Bible study. First thing he did was invite me to chapel. I get to chapel, and our chaplain is an FCA advisor. And I'm starting to get fascinated now. I'm thinking this is the steel curtain, big, bad, tough, rough, baddest guys in football at the time. And they were. But we had a group of Christian guys who, for the first time that I had seen, demonstrated everything that my mom talked about. And I thought there was only ministers and preachers, and that's who did that. And these guys showed me, no, this is us. This is what we do. And it soon struck me, this is why this team is so good. There's some leadership on this team that is deeper than just football. And we had about 25 guys who just showed the way. And I could see there was something different about the way they lived and the way I lived. So I go a year, and I'm growing into this. And the chaplain at one of the Bible studies talked about a verse that really changed my life. It was 1 Corinthians chapter 9. The Apostle Paul was talking and he said, "Don't you know that in a race everyone runs, but only one runner gets first prize? So run to win." Well, that's verse 24, and that caught my attention because that was the first time I'd ever heard in a Christian audience talking about run to win. And that's what these guys did. They practiced so hard, they played hard, they trained hard. It was important to win, and that's why, because God was saying, be the best. I'm giving you a talent. Be the best at what you do. But Paul didn't stop there, because the next verse said, they do it. They run for a prize that'll fade away very quickly. We, meaning Christians, run for an eternal prize. And the chaplain said, run to win, but make sure you're running for the right prize. And man, when I heard that, the light bulb went on. I've been running to win for a long time, since I was 7, 8 years old. But I was running for one prize. I was running for that state championship, that All-American, that contract, to make the team, all the things that football provided. And I was after that. And all of a sudden it hit me that what my mom said years and years before, maybe I was running after the wrong prize. So I got more into it. I started asking questions, and I started asking these guys about growing spiritually. And I could see they were at a place that I needed to go. And it was just tremendous how sports brought this group together. And the more I started learning about FCA, I said, man, I wish I'd have had this earlier in life. This would have really helped me. Well, I got through my first year and I made the team. If we had an hour, I could tell you how miraculous it would be for me to make the team. So many guys had to get hurt and contract disputes and everything. I started out as probably number 85 on a 47-person team, and I ended up getting to number 47 miraculously. But I make it, I'm there, and the next year, I said, well, I know what this is all about now, and this is going to be my year, and I'm going to train, and I'm going to be ready to go. And I trained so hard that off season. I came back, and I really felt like it was going to be my year. And I checked in to the second training camp, took my physical, and I had mononucleosis. So the doctor tells me, there's no real treatment, you just have to rest. We'll keep doing these blood tests. When your blood is back to normal, you'll start practicing again. I ended up being out 6 weeks where I couldn't do anything. And I got so frustrated because I felt like, boy, everything I put into it is now being taken from me. And then after like 2 or 3 weeks, I started worrying, am I ever going to get to play this season? Is somebody going to pass me? Is some other rookie going to come in and take my spot because I can't practice, I can't work out? I started getting more frustrated, more irritable, and about somewhere around the 4th or 5th week, Donnie asked me a question. He said, I think the Lord's testing you. I think you have professed to be a Christian. You said that you're chasing after the right thing, but now when it looks like this football may be taken from you, you're reacting in a totally different way. I think God wants to know, are you really on his team, or are you still on your own team? And then when he said that, again, the light went off. I said, I think you're right. I think I'm saying all the right things, but is my heart really in the right place? And I remember praying that night after he asked me that question, Lord, I want to put you first. I want to chase after you. I don't know if I'm going to come back and play. I don't know if I'm going to be okay. I don't know if I'm going to make the team again, but whatever happens, I want to do everything for you. About 2 weeks later, I get to play, get to practice. We go on and have a tremendous year. We win our third Super Bowl. I led the team in interceptions. It was just a miraculous season. But what changed for me was from doing it for myself and for the accolades and for the money, I was now doing it for the Lord. And I made that decision, whatever happens in my life, I'm going to be a Christian football player first. And that changed everything for me. At 22 years old, that's when I really started growing and understanding that was the important thing in life. Well, I wish I could say I was going on to have this miraculous career, and once I understood that, I went on to play really well. That was really my last big moment in football, Super Bowl 13. The next year, off season, I got traded to the worst team in football. I got traded again the year after that. I got cut, and I was 25 years old and looking for work. And Coach Noel called me back and he said, you have a tremendous aptitude for the game. I'd love to have you on my coaching staff. And so at 25 years old, I started coaching for the Pittsburgh Steelers, for the best coach in the history of the game. And again, it was God's plan and God working it out, which I couldn't see at the time. But now that gave me the opportunity to get more involved and to demonstrate that I was going to do things for the Lord, and put me in a position to influence young men. I started getting involved with FCA. I started to go to coaches camp in Black Mountain, North Carolina. And again, that was a life changer for me as I started to get around other coaches who had the same ideas, same goals, same philosophy, and I saw how FCA could make a difference in people's lives. It was a wonderful journey for me, and it culminated with me being named the head coach of the Tampa Bay Bucks in 1996. And shortly after I got there, the guy who has Ken's position in Florida said, boy, new coach of the Bucks, I know you've got this Christian background. It'd be awesome if you came to a huddle at the University of Florida. I think it would really inspire our athletes there. So I said, I'll do it. I'd love to go when you need me. So it's Wednesday night at 11 p.m. I said, well, first of all, Gainesville's a 2-hour drive from Tampa. But who's going to be there at 11 o'clock? What student at the University of Florida is going to be at an FCA meeting at 11 o'clock at night? I said, if you'll just come, it'd be great. We'd really appreciate it. So I went, drove up to Gainesville, got to the gymnasium at about 10:45. They had 750 kids at the University of Florida FCA at 11 o'clock at night. And I remember thinking back to Jeff Seaman 20 years earlier saying, we'd like to get this huddle started at the University of Minnesota. And I thought, man, this was what I was missing. This would have been so great to have. Because what if I hadn't made it with the Steelers? What if I hadn't seen it in professional football? What about the kids who don't make it to college? How can we have an impact on them? How can we get this going in high school? So from that point on, it really became a dream of mine to help spread the word and help get these huddles in the Florida region in the high schools. Because I wanted to get that word out so kids wouldn't miss it like I missed it from 9 years old to 22. So that's been my passion. That's why when Ken said, can you come and speak at an FCA event, even though I normally don't do it, even though I worked 12 hours yesterday, I said, no, this is important and I need to be there. Why is it so important? I'll tell you one story. Ken talked about reaching for the coaches because the coaches have so much influence. My first speech to my team at Tampa was very much like Coach Noel's was to us when I was a rookie. Don't make football your whole life. We've got to grow in other ways. I'm here to help you grow athletically, yes, but I'm here to help you grow social responsibility. I'm here to help you grow spiritually. I'm here to help you grow as young men. And we had a lot of guys on the team that took that in and embraced that. One of those guys was a young man by the name of Warwick Dunn. Warwick Dunn is a special person. He was 21 years old at that time. We had drafted him in the first round from Florida State. Many of you may know his story. He grew up in a single-parent home. His mother was a police officer. When he was 17 years old, he had 3 other teenage siblings. His mom was shot and killed in a robbery. So now at 17, he is the patriarch of the house. And he's got 3 teenage siblings. He goes on to Florida State, has a great career there. We draft him #1. He comes to me as a rookie and says, I've got these teenage siblings and they're going to struggle at home in Baton Rouge. I need to bring them with me. And I'm thinking, gosh, my wife and I have 3 kids I can't handle. I'm 40 years old and married. He's 21, single, and he's going to raise 3 kids. He brought those kids there. My wife helped him get enrolled in school. She's going to PTA meetings with him. She's helping him out. He ends up being the Rookie of the Year, raising 3 high school kids all by himself. It's the most phenomenal thing I've ever seen. But here's where the story really gets good. He hears this speech. Get involved, be part of the community, give back. As Ken said, to much who's has been given, much is required. He comes to me after that season and says, Coach, I want to do something special. I want to use this platform to make a difference. I grew up in a single-parent home. We never had a home. We're always moving around, apartment here, apartment there. Landlord kicks us out. I want to help some single moms. So what he did, he started a foundation where they would go look for a home, make the down payment on it, furnish it, and stock the refrigerator. They'd look for a single mom, and I don't know how he did the vetting process, but they'd find a single mom, he'd give her the keys and say, we've got you started, now you've got to take it from here. He's done that over 150 times. Everyone is special, but one of the young people who grew up, whose mom got those keys, was Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson, who was the quarterback at Clemson and is now the quarterback of the Houston Texans, he was 9 years old. Ward has a picture of bringing his mom and their family into this house. He's so touched by that move that when the hurricane hit in Houston last year, he gave his first game check to the cafeteria workers in their building because he said, you know what? Someone had the example of giving back and reaching out and touching me. I've got to do the same thing. So, if you follow the story, 1977, Chuck Noll, a coach, has an impact on me. 1997, I, as a coach, have an impact on Warwick Dunn. 2007, Warwick Dunn has an impact on Deshaun Watson. 2017, Deshaun Watson has an impact on the area of Houston, Texas. And it traces back to Chuck Noll, the coach, 40 years ago, who's never met Deshaun Watson, but he has an impact. That's the secret of FCA. That's what FCA can do and have that impact beyond what we'll ever even dream and realize. Ken said it takes a little effort to make it work. They've got the effort. They've got people in place. They've got a program. It's important. What they need is support from us. And I'll tell you why it's important. I don't know how it is in North Carolina, but in the state of Florida, I can tell you how it is. I can go to my local high school, Gaither High School, and I can go in and walk in the principal's office and say, my name's Tony Dungy. I'm a Hall of Fame coach. I've won a Super Bowl. I'm in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Ring of Honor. I'd like to talk to your student body about Christ. You know what that principal has to tell me? I'm sorry, you can't do that. Doesn't matter what credentials I have, doesn't matter how important I am, doesn't matter how much money I have, I can't go in that high school and talk about Christ. But the FCA staff person at Gaither High School can go in and talk about Christ. And he can help those young people get an understanding of where they need to be in life and what would it profit a man to gain the whole world if he forfeits his soul. That's the impact of FCA. That's why they need our support. That's why we're all here tonight. That's why I would get up at 4:30 in the morning in New York City to get here to Jacksonville to help that effort out. So I am appreciative of all of you being here. I thank you for what you have done to support this great ministry. I'm asking you tonight to just think about different ways that you can support it. We all can't go on staff, we all can't be huddle leaders, but we can all do something. So I just appreciate you being here tonight. I appreciate Ken and his staff and everything they do here. Thank you for the hospitality you've shown me and making me feel so great about being here in Jacksonville. God bless, and thank you to FCA.